Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from the 9th group. We are here to present about the teaching reading. So let's start with the members of the 9th group. The first is Yayang Kharisma Putri, and the next is Indriana Puspita Sari, and the next is me, Ulin Nabila. So this is the contents of the thing that we are going to present. The first is definition of reading, the next is principles of teaching reading, and then the next is classroom techniques and tasks, and the next is reading in the classroom, and the next is micro skill for reading comprehension, and then the next is strategies for reading comprehension, and the last is types of classroom reading performance. Okay, my name is Ulin Nabila, and I'm going to start the presentation by explaining the definition of reading. So what is reading? Reading is a fluent process of readers combining information from the text and from their own background knowledge to build meaning. The goals of reading is comprehension, and usually in teaching reading there are two aspects. The first one is teaching learners who are learning how to read for the first time, and then teaching learners who are already have the skill of reading in their first language. Once you know how to read in the first language, you don't have to learn how to read in the second language, but rather you learn how to transfer skill that you already have in the first language to the new concept and in the new language. Okay, going to the next topic. It is about the principles for teaching reading. There are some principles for teaching reading. The first one is exploit the reader background knowledge. A reader background knowledge can influence reading comprehension. Background knowledge includes all of the experiences that a reader brings to a text. For example, life experiences, educational experiences, knowledge of how text can be organized rhetorically, and so on. And the next is building a strong vocabulary base. Recent research emphasized the importance of vocabulary to successful reading. Basic vocabulary should be explicitly taught, and L2 readers should be taught to use context to effectively grasp the meaning of less frequent vocabulary. And then the next principles for teaching reading is teach for comprehension. Monitoring comprehension is essential to successful reading. In order to teach for comprehension, readers must monitor their comprehension process and be able to discuss with teacher or peer what strategy they use to comprehend. By doing this, the reader use their cognitive thinking and metacognitive thinking about thinking skill. And the next is work on increasing reading rate. Teacher must work towards finding a balance between assessing students to improve their reading rate and developing reading comprehension skill. Important to know that the focus is not to develop speed reader, but fluent reader. One focus here is to reduce their dependence on dictionary. And then the next is teach reading strategy. Strategies are tools for active, self-directed involvement that is necessary for developing communicative ability. It is not a single event, but rather a creative sequence of events that learners actively use. A good technique is sensitize students to the strategy they use is to get them to verbalize or talk about their thought process as they read. And then the next is encouraging students to change strategies to skill. Strategy can be described as a conscious action that learners take to achieve desired goals or objective, whilst a skill is a strategy that has become automatic. The characteristic as learner consciously learn and practice specific reading strategies, the strategies move from conscious to unconscious, from strategy to skill. And then the next principle is build assessment and evaluation into your teaching. Both quantitative assessing growth and development in reading skill from both a formal and informal perspective require time and training. Both quantitative and qualitative assessment activities should be included in the classroom. Quantitative assessment will include information from reading comprehension tests as well as reading rate data. Qualitative information can include reading journal responses, reading interest survey, and responding to reading strategy checklist. And then the next is strive for continuous improvement as a reading teacher. The quality of the individuals is integral to success of second or foreign language readers. Reading teachers need to be passionate about their work. They should view themselves as facilitator, helping each reader discover what works best. Okay, going to the next topic of the teaching reading. It is classroom technique and task. There is a teaching system for reading around the word active. A stands for activate prior knowledge. C for cultivate vocabulary. T for teach for comprehension. I for increase reading rate. V for verify reading strategy. And E for evaluate progress. Let's start with the A. Active prior knowledge. It is beneficial to engage the reader in an activity that gets them thinking about what they already know about the topic. One activity that you can use is called with an anticipation guide. The purpose of this activity is to learn what the reader already know about the topic. You can ask 5 key questions about the concept of a reading passage based on the reading skill you are trying to develop. And then the next is C, cultivate vocabulary. For cultivating vocabulary, word webs are a very good activity for building students' vocabulary skill. Begin with the writing a key concept in the middle of the paper or in the board. Choose a concept that is central to the reading you are about to do. Have the students work individually, in small group, or in a class in building from the center of the word web by adding another vocabulary that is related to the key word. And then the next is teach for comprehension, that is going to be explained by the second presenter, Yayang, Kharisma, Putri.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yayang Kharisma Putri. I will explain the next material, classroom technique and tasks. Teach for comprehension. Instead of asking the student comprehension question after reading a passage, a teacher can model with the class how he comprehends in reason. The class read together and discuss how they are understanding what is written. Increase reading rate. One successful activity is called repeat reading. Students read a short passage over and over again until they achieve criterion level or reading rate and comprehension. Next, verify and reading strategy. Think aloud protocol is guide format to get learners to identify the strategy that they use while reading. Evaluate progress. Reading journal are effective way to evaluate reading progress. Students make a journal every day. The reading journal helps the students see the progress they are making in class. Next material, reading in classroom. This material is intended for high beginning level reader. In a non-US context, the readers then practice the reading skill of scanning the pages to see if their response to the question were correct. This reading skill is taught to make sure that readers know how to use the skill of scanning teach for comprehension. So, reading in classroom, the teacher give a text and question. The student work on and answer the question. To the answer question, the student read the text and look for answer or correct information from the question. When student focus on looking for answer and read, each sentence or paragraph. It is called scanning skill in reading for comprehension. Next, micro skill for reading comprehension. According a book Brown, note that the addition to paying attention to the genre of text, reading comprehension skill and strategy as important considers in teaching reading skill. These micro skills are likely purpose in teaching reading comprehension. There are 7 micro skills in reading comprehension. Number 1 is discriminate among the distinctive grapes and orthographic pattern of English. Number 2, retain chunk of language of different in short-term memory. Number 3, process writing at an efficient rate of span to suit the purpose. Number 4, recognize are core of word and interpret word order pattern and their significance. Number 5, recognize a grammatical word class, noun, verb, system, tense, agreement, preposition, pattern, rules, and applicate from. For example, number 5. When reading a text, student will know that the grammatical class such as table is noun, word is verb, and so when the reading the text, the student can improve the vocabulary they get when reading. Number 6, recognize that a particular meaning may be expressed in different grammatical form. Number 7, recognize concept defines in written discourse and their rules in signaling the relationship between and among clauses. Based on the micro skill, they conclude that the reading is a process of interpreting and extracting meaning from written or written text by an activity to find main idea, explicit and implicit information, and the meaning of the word based on the context.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Indriana Puspita Sari. Here, I would like to continue the material. I will explain about strategies for reading comprehension. Strategies for reading comprehension. At the first is identifying the purpose in reading. Its mean, efficient reading consists of clearly identifying the purpose in reading something. By doing so, you know what you are looking for and can weed out potential distracting information. Number 2, use graphemic rule and pattern to aid in bottom-up decoding, or especially for beginning level learners. Number 3, use efficient silent reading technique for relatively rapid comprehension for intermediate to advanced level. If you are teaching beginning level students, this particular strategy will not apply because they are still struggling with the control of a limited vocabulary and grammatical pattern. Number 4, skim the text for main ideas. Skimming consists of quickly running one's eyes across an whole text, such as an essay, article, or chapter, for its case. Number 5, scan the text for specific information. Scanning exercise may ask students to look for names or dates, to find a definition of a key concept, or to list a certain number of supporting details. Number 6, use semantic mapping or clustering. The strategy of semantic mapping or grouping idea into meaning clusters help the reader to provide some order to the text. Number 7, cause when you are certain. 8, analyze vocabulary. 9, discuss between literal and implied meaning. And number 10, capitalize on discourse marks to process relationship. The next material is type of classroom reading performance. At the first is oral and silent reading. At the beginning and intermediate level, oral reading can serve as an evaluative check on bottom-up processing skill, double as pronunciation check, serve to add some extra student participant if you want to highlight a certain short segment of reading passage. And the disadvantages of oral reading is not a very authentic language activity. While one student is reading, other can easily lose attention or be silently rehearsing the next paragraph. It may have the outward appearance of student participation when in reality it is mere recitation. Second, intensive and executive reading. Intensive reading is usually a classroom-oriented activity in which students focus on the linguistic or semantic detail of passage. Intensive reading calls student attention to grammatical form, discard markers, and other surface detail for the purpose of understanding literal meaning, implication, rhetorical relationship, and the like. Excessive reading is carried out to achieve a general understanding of usually somewhat longer text, book, long article or essay, and etc. Most excessive reading is performed outside of class time. Reference David Noonan, 2003, Practical English Language Teaching, New York, and Douglas H. Brown, 2007, Teaching by Principle, an Interactive Approach to Language Pedagogy. I think enough from our group, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.